Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Happy day before Turkey Day, Gobble Gobble Day. I guess
Are you
the
all ready?
turkeys- am I ready?
Yes.
Am I ready?
I think I said that. Yes.
Yeah. It's funny you should ask that. No. No, actually, we are ready. But, it's just, there's really not a lot you can do. You got to wait, but the bird should be thawed in time and ready to put in the oven. And, tomorrow's going to be a busy day.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, they're not relying on me in my household to do it. So I have talented people putting our Thanksgiving dinner together. So my participation is I am the primary enjoyer of the food. I will be there tomorrow.
You're the official taster.
Yes, I am.
And let me give you advice. When wife and daughter and family and foe, whatever you got cooking, it's always excellent.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if, even if it's bad, you do it with a smile.
You don't want to wear it. Yeah, I know.
Because the turkey has a carcass, and they know.
Oh.
They could stuff it where
you'll be the stuffing. Yes.
I'm gonna stuff that bird.
Anyway,
right where the sun don't shine.
A lot of things are happening. We talked about Venezuela. I hear people saying that. First of all, I heard Tucker Carlson say, "Well, shouldn't we know why we're going to war there?" I was thinking, I kind of know. Don't you kind of know if we go to war in Venezuela why we're going?
Yeah, I do. But, it's funny because he's falling victim to a lot of the weird narrative out there.
Yeah.
The narrative of the left. By him saying that, don't you think we should know?
Yeah.
Unless what he's alluding to, there may be more than one reason. Or maybe more than one defining reason.
Don't you think in war, one of the primary things is surprise, and you want to keep your enemy guessing what the heck is going on? One of our problems, I've always thought, is that we announce everything in advance.
Mm-hmm.
We do a public statement. I know that legally and constitutionally, when you go to war, you're supposed to go in front of Congress, but when you do that, you lose your element of surprise. You've told the world we're going to war against country A or country B,
Well, everybody wants to be important, and so the news wants to show you they're doing their job by reporting it. Senator so-and-so from Montana wants to, show that he's on top of things and he's a part of it, or he doesn't want to be a part of it. Either way, so they go out there and do their thing. So instead of letting you do what it is you got to do, they spill the beans. They pour water on the fire you're starting for a reason.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get a feeling that the sense is something's happening this weekend. I don't know if it would be that obvious, but maybe that's the strategy, that it is that obvious.
On Monday,
obvious.
General Dan Kane, I guess he's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He visited the troops in Puerto Rico, and he apparently was there to, like we had mentioned yesterday, talk about a new phase that they were about to enter. Well, what new phase would that be? They're down there now. They're in place. The next phase would obviously be conflict. And he probably was, there to see how ready the troops were and whether they had everything they need to, to go through the process. I think that, for example, Tucker kind of poo-pooed, well, the obvious thing is the drug thing, but don't other countries do drugs? Mexico probably does more drugs. Maybe they do, but a lot of what we get comes from Venezuela, and a lot of it comes from China through Venezuela into our country.
Well, if you're going to take out a disease, and the whole body's infected, don't you go to the root of the disease?
Well, that would be
And
China, wouldn't it? But you don't want to go to China, I guess.
well, no, but Venezuela is a good starting point. It's a hot spot. That country, I think, all its citizens there are basically hostage. Um, they have gone from a shiny country that people looked up to, maybe wanted to go visit at one time in our history, and now all of a sudden they're a third world
I heard
country.
a senator, I believe, interviewed yesterday, and he said, he said, here's what the situation is. If you wonder why we're thinking about going into Venezuela, um, we've lost about 500,000 people in our country to poison that has been directly shipped from that country into our country illegally.
Yeah.
What he said, what more reason do you need? We've lost tens of thousands of citizens, many of them young people with their whole lives ahead of them because of Venezuela. How much more of an excuse do you need to go in there? And I thought,
Well, and think of
yeah,
this too, because of that very reason, we go in and we do a strategic strike and take out their drug making capabilities or put it or cripple it pretty badly. Does that not send a message to anywhere else that, like Tucker's referring to? Well, they're not the only ones, but maybe the littler players might go, that didn't look too fun. Maybe we don't
yeah,
want to be a part of
yeah, that
that
didn't
game.
that didn't look too fun at all. No, you're right. But then and Tucker made a good point. He said, the thing is, people forget that we're going to lose some of our people doing that, no matter how lucky we are. And he's probably right. I don't think there's ever been a war that we've gone through that hasn't cost us some price. And it's never easy. And I don't think President Trump takes those things easy. I mean, look at right now, he's negotiating a peace deal with the Ukraine and Russia, and apparently, by the way, it's really close. They're I guess the Ukraine has agreed to most of that deal in principle, and now they're taking the deal to Russia. And I forgot where they're meeting someplace in the Middle East. I don't know if it's Saudi Arabia
Mm-hmm.
or Syria, but they're meeting in another location with the Russians. And the Russians they'll go over it, and I guess they'll make their suggestions or their complaints known, whatever they are. But at least there's discussion. And by the way, I want to remind people who may say, well, this is a waste of time, Joe Biden didn't talk to Vladimir Putin for 4 years. Okay?
Right.
I mean, he didn't even talk to him on the friggin' phone. I know. I remember hearing Biden say, I've talked to Biden before. Well, yeah, but 10 years ago, maybe? I mean, to Putin before what, 10 years ago? Come on, Joe. I mean, you're the president now. Pick up the phone. He didn't do it.
No, he didn't. But Democrats are saying what a great job he did. Mr. Otto Pin himself.
Yeah.
So, oh, by the way, I understand last year's turkeys that got pardoned.
Yes.
They got unpardoned yesterday.
Yeah, well, it's because Joe used the auto pen to give him the pardon. Yeah, I heard
So
that.
So,
But then again, Trump did give him another pardon, so those turkeys are still, flapping their feathers.
flapping them proudly though, because they got double pardoned.
Yes,
so to speak.
Yes. Oh gosh, there's a Hall of President. I think he calls it the Hall of Presidents, but it's not a hall. It's an outside venue. When you walk, I guess, near the Rose Garden, there's a bunch of presidential pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to Biden's picture, it's an auto pen. You have Trump, a picture of the auto pen, and another picture of Trump, which is he was showing that to the Syrian president, and they were both getting a chuckle out of it. It must have been driving the people on the left nuts. Every time they walk by that, they have to.
Well, he's got control.
Go ahead.
He's got control of that, and he's turned it into a joke, and he's having fun with it.
Yeah.
I'm sure if a Democrat gets back in, they're gonna do something to Trump. He's because I will say, he set the stage for it. Somewhere down the line, Democrats are vindictive, and they will, just to be mean, do things. And if you're saying he's being mean, they were mean to him before he got in the first time, all during the campaign. They did everything to undermine him. And they did it after he came out, and they tried to put him away. They didn't. And he's back. And they're doing the same thing again. So don't think for 1 minute that it's not well deserved. That's what's going on.
It's funny. A lot of people on the left want you to believe that a lot of the supporters of President Trump are walking away from him.
That's not true.
No. As a matter of fact, Victor Davis Hanson was asked this by Laura Ingraham a couple of days ago. Listen.
Victor, I want to go back to something we talked about last segment about this idea that Trump is, quote, losing his influence in the Republican Party. That's kind of the wish casting going into the midterms. And you see this time and again in the press. Your reaction to that new line they're peddling?
They said that for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months after January 6th. He was all through. He was all washed up. And then they didn't even have a serious primary. No one even got near him. And the main candidates withdrew very quickly. It's the same thing. And they can't decide whether they want to run against Trump or that he's not going to be there. But whatever it is, he dominates the party. He's like a colossus that just strides over the party and the country. And they know that. And they've tried everything, Laura. They've tried to raid his house. They deballoted him. They had 5 lawfare cases, 91 charges, indictments. And he's kind of anything that doesn't destroy him makes him stronger. And so he's going to have a booming economy next spring when all this foreign investment, this more energy development, more tax reduction, deregulation. It's going to be a good year. And I think everybody knows it. And I think the left, they're reduced to nothing. They're cutting these videos that are calling for military insubordination, and it's violating a lot of the elements of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, Article 88, Article 90, Article 92. And they're so desperate, but there's no defection. I think he's stronger than he ever was.
They had Mark Kelly on CNN, I believe, yesterday, or was it MSN? Well, I still instinctively want to say NBC, but they're now MS now, because NBC doesn't want to have anything more to do with it. They've destroyed that already. So here, you take
they're
it.
doing a good job destroying now. I mean, pretty soon it's going to be MS Now and Then and Was. MS Was.
Exactly. But it's interesting. They are still trying to sell the idea that Trump is a despot. Mark Kelly said, and he loves to say this, he says, we issued that video, which was our constitutional right, and he called for our death. No, he did not. Sir, you are a pure and unadulterated liar. He simply said that sedition, the penalty for sedition sometimes is death. He didn't say, I want Mark Kelly dead. I want those people to suffer the death penalty. But although I have to tell you, by the way, friends, that there was a time in our country when if you did what they did, I mean, you obviously couldn't do it back in 1860. There was no such thing as video. But, I mean, if you went in the newspapers and started to encourage sedition, you might be in serious trouble, especially if you were a U.S. senator and a retired Navy captain. This guy wants to make himself sound like he's the victim. Bill, I think you mentioned this. I do think that we are in the middle of a soft coup. There is something that is going on. I saw, who was it? Andrew, he's a lawyer on Fox, and he is one of their experts, and he said, it's no big thing. They should just let the video go. It's just a video. No, it is not just a video. It is a call to action. Whether you know it or not, whether you believe it or not, it is a call to action. You can't go and can you imagine if you were on the parade ground and there were a bunch of Marines and they were in formation and you ran into the parade ground and said, "Come on, guys, half you guys, you don't have to stay here. You're still an independent U.S. citizen. Come on with me," they'd arrest you right away. And those guys who broke rank would be arrested too, if any did. And I don't think any Marine would break rank. But there'd be no question about it if it was a physical thing that happened. You know, if you were in a situation where you ran into a barracks and said to half the guys, "Hey, listen, as far as I'm concerned, you're all discharged. You shouldn't be here. You're in an illegal war," or something like that. "Come with me." They would arrest you right away. You'd be a traitor. But yet you think that these guys can go on television, reach millions of people around the world, disgrace our country, and call and essentially call his orders illegitimate? The president, that is, illegitimate? You can't do that. You know, and why shouldn't those people have to face consequences? Now, all of a sudden, they're surprised that Pete Hegseth is doing an inquiry into this guy. I think, really and truly, I think he's going to be called back to active duty, and I think he's going to be court-martialed. Whether he goes to jail is another thing, but he might lose his rank. He might lose his retirement. You know, as far as I'm concerned, he should be thrown out of the Senate, because what they did was despicable. And by the way, if it makes some other radicals in the Senate pay attention, so be it. Right now, we have allowed in our country people to just run rampant. We've allowed them to, without consequence. Think about 2020. How many of you sat back when you watched television and saw city streets being burned and businesses being destroyed? How many of you were wondering, well, when is our side going to do something? When are we going to stop this? And it didn't happen, because now in this touchy-feely, everybody's cool environment we live in, there are no consequences for your action.
Right.
When I was a kid, Bill, if I talked back to my good father, who was an educated, smart guy, a combat veteran in the war, but if I talked back to him, if I broke a rule, I paid a consequence. You know, if I was a teenager, I might have lost the car for a while. You know, if I gave him a smart remark, I might get a backhand. But I paid a consequence. There was a result for my action. And by the way, when I did these things, I knew it. When I was disobeying an order, or when I was being fresh, you know, as my dad used to say, "Don't be fresh with me." I don't know what that meant, you know, fresh, as opposed to what, being sour? But I knew there was a consequence when I did it. Nowadays, because everybody is, oh, you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. Oh, we're all the same. We just have a different point of view. No. I'm sorry, Bill. I could go on and on. I could do the whole show. I didn't think I could ramble like that, but it truly bothers me that now these people are saying, "Oh, they're gonna maybe court-martial him." Oh my God! You know, can you imagine that? All he did is make a little video.
Yeah. Well, it was the wrong thing to do, and many military people have come forward, generals that have sat there and said what they did was sedition. Now the left is out there crying, well, you know, the United States Military Academy, West Point, you know, there's a plaque in the wall. Yeah, well, a lot of buildings have a plaque in the wall, and they may tout something that is not 100%. Well, I don't want to say true, but it is not the entire truth. Like, there's a plaque now that's being used at West Point. And basically, the plaque is the loyalty to the Constitution, And it says it's military code, but they're highlighting our American Code of Military Obedience requires that should orders and the law ever conflict, our officers must obey the law. Well, that's kind of ambiguous and vague, because it is really defined in the military code, and you do have to follow orders. That is not a blanket, release of, obligation to follow, because they're saying that little plaque gives everybody the freedom to act out against an order
Well,
if they deem it illegal. Well, believing something that isn't so, you don't know. I don't agree with it. That's got to be illegal. I'm not going to follow that order. Then you're a traitor.
well,
You can't do it based on
West Point. Let's talk about West Point. They got pictures there of Robert E. Lee at West Point. Well, West Point, he was a traitor. I don't care. I mean, technically, you may love him. You may be a son of the South, but the fact of the matter is, to the United States, he wanted to destroy it and make the Confederate States of America. And so he was a traitor. But there's pictures of him on the wall at West Point. And the other thing is this. They've asked these 6 people who made the video, well, tell us what orders President Trump has issued that are illegal.
Yeah.
They can't tell you. Go ahead.
Well, one of them sat there and said, none to my knowledge. Even Kelly, when he was asked that, he turned the question around. He didn't even address it because the answer is there is no order that Trump, or order that Trump gave that is against the law. And right now, he's got the power to pretty much, and I'm not saying because he's elected in president, but he's dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's, and he's very just in what he's doing. And he would be just in taking Kelly and making him an example. I don't think he will to the point of execution because he never really called for that.
No.
What he said was, this is what has been called for in the past, based on what the code is, what the law is.
By the way, I mentioned Robert E. Lee because he went to West Point. That's why I mentioned him. That's why his picture is there. But Benedict Arnold. I keep talking about Benedict Arnold because it's a perfect example. Everyone's saying, well, these people, he was a captain in the Navy, Mark Kelly, and she was a CIA officer. And, well, I mean, Benedict Arnold was the second in command in the Continental Army, which was the precursor to the United States Army. And he was the guy who was going to be the successor to George Washington. He was the hot guy next to George Washington. Yet he turned around and was a traitor. And Washington didn't want to have him just arrested. Washington wanted to have Benedict Arnold executed. He wanted to have him executed, hung. He didn't want to just shake hands and say, you're going to jail, or you've been a bad boy, we're going to pull your rank. He wanted, for what he did, he wanted him to face the ultimate consequence. But nobody says a word about George Washington for being so, cruel. Oh, how bad. Now, again, I go back to, we're in a different time, yes, but also what they used, that form of distribution to spread their lie was more powerful than anything we've ever had in the past. They used social media, reached probably millions and millions of people with their lie.
Yeah, and what they gave to their Democrat friends who are looking for excuses, validation, and everything, they gave them a cookie, something to make them feel good about, rebelling against it, and gave them, false security and authorization to do something that they know is wrong. Now, you're not going to get a chance to, if you do it, well, so-and-so said this. Yeah, but you made the choice to do it.
Yep.
Based on that. We play games.
Yeah.
You kill people in games, blow up things. But it's a game. This is life. This is real life. And when a general gives an order, it's based on the intel that he's got and everything he's got. It's absolute. There is no way around it. And it's very clear how it defines in the code of conduct, in the military law, and so on, that what is and isn't true, and how you determine it. But you can't be on the field guessing, well, I don't agree with that, so I'm not going to carry out that order.
Yeah.
It's got to be illegal.
Well, Stephen Miller, he said I got a long cut, and I don't know why. I can't find the audio right now. I'll look for it in a second. But he was adamant that what they did was traitorous.
It is
seditious.
Yes.
And a lot of people, a lot of military people, ex-military people are PO'd because it has a real bad effect on a lot of the troops. Not all the troops, but there is a certain element in the troops. Not everybody in the military wants to be there. And even the people who enlisted, they get in there and they find out, wait, this is actually work. And they're not crazy about being there. And all of a sudden they feel, I should be doing something else. And it's the way military has always been. So if you drop a seed of doubt like those 6 people did and say, hey, listen, if there's an order out there that you think is illegal or wrong, you don't have an obligation to carry it out. Can you imagine if somebody is off the coast of Venezuela and they're getting ready to load on the landing boats to invade Venezuela, and a bunch of them say, we're not going. No, I think this is illegal. I think invasion of Venezuela is illegal, and I don't think I have an obligation to get on that landing craft.
Right. Well, then you're no different than a conscientious objector, like somebody who was going, I'm drafted, the hell with that, I'm going to Canada. And you probably, because I know you served, and a lot of people did that, but I forget who it was that said, oh, well, we'll forgive these people that went over there and they could come back. And that might be
I think it was Jimmy Carter who cut him slack.
Yeah, it was Carter. But they cut him the slack. And there are people who go, hey, I got my kids back home. Great. But what about the kids that went and served? And they obeyed orders, legal orders, and politicians that sat there and ordered them to go do that will tell you they were legal orders.
I found the Stephen Miller audio. I'm going to play it. Let's take a break first, though. Like and share the show if you would. Like and share our program. Tell your friends about us. Also, if you want to contact us, it's mail@jimandbill.com.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. Stephen Miller was really on a roll. He was talking with Jesse Waters on his show about this situation, and listen to what he said.
Well, they should be held accountable under the law and under the Uniform Code of Military Justice for a seditious conspiracy against the United States of America. This is completely open and shut, straightforward. What is the motivation? Why would 6 members of Congress, selecting specifically for individuals with a CIA or military background, record a carefully written, carefully produced, slickly edited video messaging directly to members of our clandestine services and our armed forces, telling them to disobey orders from their superiors, telling them that they should individually determine whether an order is legal or illegal and defy it. Individuals who are exercising life and death power. The CIA engages in covert missions all over the world involving life and death decisions. The armed forces launches life-taking missions time and time again. They carry weapons. They control drones. They control missiles. They work on nuclear submarines. For what purpose would you ever deliver this message? As you said, it's to create a color revolution. It is the CIA playbook for trying to foment insurrection from within the military and within the CIA. Look, we saw after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, Jesse, members of the armed forces openly celebrating his murder. So think about that for a second. You have people in the armed forces, and it can be a tiny, tiny percentage, but who celebrated the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and then now they're getting a message from Kelly and from other members of Congress saying, defy your commanders. Rise up and defy your superiors. That kind of language will get people killed. It endangers our national security. It is dangerously radicalizing, and it has all of the evidence of willfulness and intent. And when they go on TV and they say, well, we can't name what order is illegal, that proves the point. It was never about the law. It was breaking down the chain of command. The Democrat Party is openly engaged every day in trying to tear down democracy, whether it be judges who are binding the president with unlawful orders, releasing violent criminals back onto the street, trying to cement and protect the illegal alien invasion of America, and now fomenting rebellion inside of the ranks of our armed forces and CIA.
Yeah. Stephen Miller, the thing about it is you cannot assume that they didn't know exactly what they were doing, because you'd be wrong. I think that before they got in front of the cameras, before they made their comments, they rehearsed it. They thought about it. They knew exactly where they were taking this concept. It wasn't something which was, let's just get together and do a video. As a matter of fact, one of the tell signs is, listen to the music in the background on that. They have this dramatic music, patriotic dramatic music that is, playing while they're doing their little chant. As a matter of fact, I'm going to play just a little bit of what they said so you can hear the music. Listen.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day
to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
Like us. You all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
And right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad, but from right here at home.
You hear that music in the background? That music is designed to stir your emotions and make you feel that what they're saying is patriotic. It really is. And I know that because that's why they put music like that in movies. Because they'll take a scene.
Heartstrings, emotion.
Yeah. They'll take a scene that is, and if they put the music behind it at the right point, it'll get you all involved, excited, more into the story. So it is intentional on the part of the those six people. What they were doing was planned. When Stephen Miller said, Bill, that this is a color revolution, and I'm not exactly. I've heard that term used many times without a definition. I think there's I will check on that and give you an answer. But I do know that it is used covertly to get people. For example, we've used color revolutions to get people in countries that are being, repressed, to rise up against their government, and in doing so, give our country an opportunity to get involved and, quote, rescue them. And I think that they're using those tools right now in our own country to get people involved. And I do think that the ultimate end is to destroy Donald Trump's administration, his government. And I don't think that's a far out, thought. I think
is in reference to a.
Go ahead, Bill.
Oh, I was going to say a color revolution refers to a series of nonviolent protests and political movements aimed at changing governments in post-Soviet states, often triggered by allegations of electoral fraud and authoritarianism. So basically what they're saying is that we've got an illegitimate government.
Right.
And for you to go out and peacefully demonstrate and do whatever you can to derail the Trump administration, which is what they are doing, which by them doing it the way that they did it is sedition. It is an outright, subtle way to try to sit there using linguistics to sit there and overthrow the current administration. And that's what they're trying to do. So if you want to sit there and say, we are in a very quiet attack, I wouldn't call it a quiet attack, but it's a very calculated, verbally driven attack. But they're encouraging you to in any turn of the corner, use anything you can to derail, disrupt, and stop this. And,
But
right now,
Bill,
go ahead.
color revolutions, from what I know, they never end peacefully. They
No,
may
they
start
don't.
that way. They may start as a quiet, peaceful, oh, we don't like you and what you're doing kind of thing. But as they grow, you get the violence in the streets, you get the stones being thrown, you get people being shot and hurt, or sometimes even killed. Those things happen in these revolutions. I think back in 1956 in Hungary, when the people in Hungary must have thought through a color revolution that it was a good time to rise up against Russia's occupation. And they did. And they threw stones and they fired guns, and they were put down by the Russians violently. That can happen. That would happen here too, but they don't seem to care about this. What they want, I think, isn't the outcome. They want the disturbances to continue, because as long as Trump is trying to put out fires internally, he's not doing his work.
He's not effective, and they'll sit there and say he didn't deliver on his promises. We're going to come in here and fix everything. Throughout the years, have you ever seen, and be honest, are we better off today than we were, let's say, in 2006? Because that gives you the Obama years. I don't think so.
No,
and we're so basically, except for maybe the Reagan years, politicians don't deliver on their promises. Trump has delivered, but Democrats have torn it down just for the sake of, we can't leave that statue there because it represents good things. So they're going to kill the policies. It's kind of like me when I talk about all these institutes that do studies and everything that are out there, and all of a sudden, we're fighting this and this disease. We have spent billions, if not trillions of dollars to fight diseases. Have we cured anything, really? Because even the ones we said we cured, they're back.
I know.
So we've spent all this money chasing our tail.
But then you hear, we could go, that's a whole other show we could do.
Well, that's a big show.
Holy smokes, yeah. But they want us to be divided. They want us to be going after each other. By the way, when we're going after each other, we're not paying attention to what they're doing in government.
It's a distraction. That was where I was going to go next. It's a big distraction of what they're doing out there. The Epstein files that they've been crying for, well, now they're there and they're going, oh, geez, we got to, because it's not going to be good for them. So let's distract. And they don't have to. I've used the analogy before, a guy that worked, I came into a company and he was working there, and they were saying, we got a lot of equipment problems. And I went out and did an inspection. I sat there and I said, no, we got great equipment. You got a bad engineer. Well, what do you mean? And, I actually brought in a guy and found evidence where he sat there, he would unsolder something and just tack it there. And anybody that's in electronics or engineering, what that would do. That thing would sit there and some car would drive down the road a block away and the ground would rumble and that little contact would come loose. We were off the air.
Yeah.
And he would go, I have a good idea. I'll have us back on the air in no time. And it was job security for him. He never accomplished anything or fixed anything. He created a problem that he would go and put the Band-Aid back on, and then
you gotta wonder how long
else.
You gotta wonder how long that worked for him.
It worked for about 6 years until I came along, and then it worked about a week, and that was it. And because I've seen it before, I can smell it, and you don't have to be an expert in any kind of business to spot it. There's, and you don't have to be an expert in political science or, and I see what's going on, and it happens in the Republican side too. It's all a dance.
Yeah, they constantly misjudge Trump. They do it all the time. They forget this guy is a skilled negotiator. He's a good judge of people. He makes mistakes, and he's not perfect, but he learns by his mistakes, and he doesn't usually make them twice. That being said, they judge Trump by his public persona. He'll go out and laugh and giggle or make a silly comment or seem to be talking about. I think that much of that is calculated on his part. That the real Trump, and I say this because when you listen to people on his cabinet talk about Trump, they talk about him with reverence and awe. Like, my God, this guy is amazing. But it's a different character than we see in public. In public, go ahead.
I was going to say he's not a politician. He's not a traditional business guy. If in any other walk of life, he might be a little bit awkward and everything, but he's just an ordinary guy. And he's not into screw anybody over. He is into, hey, I think I have an idea of how to fix this. Doesn't say he's always right, but if he makes a mistake, he fixes it and he gets the job done. But he's not trained in the art of diplomacy and everything. He speaks his mind. If you don't, he's not he won't sugarcoat anything. And as far as, you say he's got an ego, no one's going to say, thank you, Mr. Trump. You did a great job there. So the only person he's got to toot his own horn is himself. So let's just get over ourselves and just
you hit that right on the head. Done. You hit that right on the head. The media is never going to say, boy, Trump did a wonderful job.
No. So he's got to toot his own horn.
Yep.
And then, and that's something they'd say, he's got such a big ego. No, you've got such arrogance.
Yes.
To do what you do. And, it almost makes you ashamed. I'm not ashamed of being an American, but I'm ashamed of our news outlets, our media, and a lot of people that run it.
But, Bill, I've learned that the media is the same around the world in so many ways. In England, the media is anti-government, or anti-people, actually. In other different countries like Germany and France, the media can't be counted on. The media is not your friend. They always have an agenda, and they follow their agenda, not necessarily the truth.
Well, if the media was doing a good job and really doing their job the way that they should, then social media and podcast would be nothing, because people would have the sources to go to get the absolute news. Now, unfortunately, there are people that are brainwashed to it because we've been indoctrinated through the years, but those numbers are going down. And they keep going down. And unfortunately, with the media, social media and the internet, there are influencers out there that are going and spewing a lot of negativity. But I don't think there would have been room for a podcast like this or other things out there if the media was really doing their job and just conveying the news that there is.
Yeah, that's true. It's interesting. They if you look at how the media treated, for example, Karine Jean-Pierre in her press conferences, they sat quietly almost in the press briefing room, and they were respectful, and they didn't say things that were antagonistic. They were disciplined. When Caroline Leavitt gets up there for President Trump, they're like sharks in water with blood. They just they can't help themselves. They want to jump on the next sentence, and they want to be the first to say the attack word. They are unbelievably different, which says to me they've got an agenda. They are more in sync with the left big time than they are with the right. By the way, we were talking about MS Now earlier. One of their slogans is, new name, same idea, or same
BS.
Yeah, exactly. I thought, oh, cripes, this was your opportunity to improve yourself, and what you're saying is, nope, we're going to continue to stink.
Well, the Democrats, I'll just make an analogy here. They give little cookies out, to the minions out there to listen to and follow their diatribe. And that's why they do all these our tent's so big, it's big enough for whether you're transgender, gay, black, Indian, Hindu, you're a shingle on a roof, whatever you identify as, we have room for you. And here's your cookie. They're like Pavlov's dogs, they're trained. They're trained seals.
Oh, the Democratic Party is the party gave you Zoran Mandani, a communist in New York. I mean, holy smokes. Hey, I just looked at the clock, Bill. We're having so much fun talking today. Like and share the show if you would. Tell your friends about us. That's how we get the message out to new listeners. Like and share us. Also, if you want to call, if you want to contact us, you don't want to call us because you'll be frustrated. We don't have a number. If you want to contact us, it's mail at jimandbill.com.
There is a way to call.
Really?
Yeah, there is a way to call long distance without a phone. I know because in 1986 I was the MC for it, the National Hollering Contest.
Oh, so you're saying they can go outside in their yard and call you?
Yeah, well, yeah. That's kind of weird. I forget what time of the year it happens, but it's in Spivey Corner, North Carolina. Look it up. Because Johnny Carson used to have the biggest hollerer out there every year. And
you're saying we don't even need a number. All you have to do is go out and call Bill.
Or Jim. Just holler real loud in your own unique way.
Yes.
But,
you think maybe we should take that break now or what?
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. You were saying about the way to call us, and I do think that's it's cheaper that way. I don't know how effective it is, but I mean, if you want to go out and call Bill or call me, just go into your driveway and scream. Your neighbors will love it.
I'll tell you, Jim, if somebody hollers my name, I hear my name hollered out in the crowd.
Yes.
I run for cover.
You're a smart man.
Yes.
I don't blame you.
I hide.
Hey, you mentioned at the top of the show about the media is doing their best to divide this administration.
Yeah.
And they put this lying story out there. MS Now did, saying that Kash Patel was on the verge of being removed from his position as FBI director.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Caroline Leavitt saw the story almost immediately, and she walked into the president's office while he was having a meeting with Kash Patel, and they were having a great old time, and she said, Mr. President, you got to see this. And I guess she handed the story to the president. The president said, what? What's this? So the first thing they did is they went over to a picture on the wall in the Oval Office, the president and Kash, and did a thumbs up together like everything's cool, we're fine. And I thought, good for him. There is no divide between Kash Patel and President Trump right now. There isn't any. But they want to. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and I've seen it with Trump too, when he makes a change, I've seen it in business where people will shuffle somebody's role. Hey, you're no longer, you saw it in radio, you're no longer the afternoon man, you're the morning man now. The morning man is now, the program director. You shift roles around because you stir the pot up a little bit, but you got a good cast, a good crew, but you find that what they have might be more effective here than there. And it also keeps the other side dancing too, because, they're going, wait a minute, I was just getting adjusted to, how to dance around this guy. And now you've changed it a little bit. So, but Kash is not out. I mean, because they did do that. They came out, but supposedly it's the typical three people. We have three undisclosed sources that are very close that said this. Yeah, I'd like to know who these 1, 2, 3 sources are. We never do get their names.
Speaking of sources, we mentioned this a couple of days ago, but it's worth talking about again for a minute or so. The FBI did come out and say, well, there's nothing more to see here as far as the Butler investigation is concerned.
Right.
So I want to play for you what Miranda Devine had to say about Butler and her investigation. It's a little long, but it's worth listening to. and we can talk about it.
They've told us that there was actually a very large digital footprint left behind by 20-year-old Thomas Crooks, who was Donald Trump's would-be assassin last year in Butler, Pennsylvania. It's quite a different story to the one that Christopher Wray and his deputy Paula Bate told Congress just in a couple of weeks after that assassination attempt. And we were sort of led to believe that Thomas Crooks was really a ghost, that there was no motive that could be ascertained from his online accounts. And yet a source has provided us with a lot of information from 17 different online accounts that Thomas Crooks had. And they range from, Google Play to that site you referenced before called DeviantArt, which is probably the biggest or one of the biggest hubs online for this sexual fetish called furries, where people dress up or fantasize about animal characters, cartoon characters that are sort of humanized. And so it's very bizarre, but we also saw that with Charlie Kirk's killer, alleged killer Tyler Robinson, who was also involved in this bizarre furry culture. So there's not a lot that my source discovered on those lines, but there was a little bit. The fact that this guy, Thomas Crooks, was interested in this furry site, spent a lot of time there, had various images that he liked and reposted, and also gave his pronouns as they, them. But I think the more important part is what the comments, his online comments from, he was very young, 15, 16, 17, show us about how he became increasingly violent and sort of radicalized against Democrats. He was pro-Trump. And then in January of 2020, he flipped 180 degrees. Something happened to make him become rabidly anti-Trump. And again, his rhetoric took more and more of a violent turn. He started brushing up against, there was a neo-Nazi by the name, fake name probably, William Tepes, who started encouraging Crooks in more and more violent rhetoric. And then suddenly something happened in August of 2020, and he just disappeared online. Very unusual. And then, of course, in July of 2024, he fired off 8 shots from a rooftop at Donald Trump at that rally in Butler, killing Corey Comparatore, who was sitting behind Donald Trump, and badly injuring 2 other rally goers, and hitting Donald Trump in the ear. Only, by a miracle did Donald Trump not get killed that day.
Wow, and he certainly is unsatisfied with the answers President Trump is that he has been given about the circumstances that led up to that moment, that day. Here is the former FBI Deputy Director Paula Bate on Crook's social media. This was July 2024. Listen here.
There were over 700 comments posted from this account. Some of these comments, if ultimately attributable to the shooter, appear to reflect anti-Semitic and anti-immigration themes, to espouse political violence, and are described as extreme in nature.
So in your revelations, you say thanks to this enterprising source who uncovered Crook's hidden digital footprint, that we can see that he was misleading Congress by omission because he left out an entire section of Crook's online interactions from January to August of 2020, when he did that ideological backflip that you just described and went from rabidly pro-Trump to rabidly anti-Trump, and then went dark, never seeming to post again. I look at the vastness of his online presence: YouTube, Snapchat, Venmo, Zelle, GroupMe, Discord, Google Play, Quizlet, Chess.com, Quora. He was everywhere. So what are your sources revealing about what the former FBI director was sharing publicly to Congress in that moment?
Well, it really is inexplicable now that we see that evolution of Thomas Crooks from being pro-Trump to anti-Trump. It's inexplicable that Paula Bate would give only that first part of the trajectory for the would-be Trump assassin. It just led Congress and led the public to think something different about Thomas Crooks than was the reality. I don't understand why Paula Bank would do that. And I think it would be good if Congress could bring him back and ask him why. I think the president and people close to him are understandably frustrated or unsatisfied. And I think the public is unsatisfied with the answers that we've been getting from the FBI, including in the, Donald Trump FBI. We would expect it under Joe Biden, I guess, but there's no reason now why Senator Ron Johnson has had to subpoena the current FBI under Director Kash Patel for more information about Thomas Crooks, about the autopsy, about other forensic evidence and documents, and none of that's been forthcoming. And we see now from the exposure from our source of this online presence that there is a lot of other information that the FBI either chose not to look at or is somehow keeping it under wraps.
What's disappointing is what we got there from New York Post investigative reporter Miranda Devine. What we got there was more in 5 minutes than we've gotten from our own FBI. They just concluded their investigation and said there's nothing to see here, move along. And we deserve more than that. We almost lost a guy who was about to be our choice to be president. And we did lose Corey Comparatori, a good citizen, a good father, a firefighter. And we almost lost two other people who get absolutely no recognition at all, but they were seriously injured during that attack. And we deserve more than that. Don't you think so, Bill?
Yeah, and actually, we're talking about the furries right now, but it's a bigger thing. I think I had mentioned to you before things started that we've got a generation that's addicted to gaming, and because the games it gets their dopamines jacked up, and actually you can deplete them. They replenish, but you can deplete them to where it leads to more addiction that you want, because it's instant gratification in these games. And most of these games, like even Call of Duty we talked about, you get gratified because you killed somebody. There are no consequences. If you get killed, you get to regenerate, unlike real life. But with that thought in mind, and we were talking about furries there, which is a sexual thing. People basically dress up as furries and they role play, and it gets very dark. Do you know, if you go and type in right now, furry sites for kids, there are furry sites for 9-year-olds. And on these sites, they will talk about sex games. They talk about politics. They talk about other things that you can do. There's also games on site that will politically program you, where kids have actually committed suicide from it. And there's a big lawsuit against it, Roblox. There's a big, if you lost a child that was a gamer that might have done something or committed suicide, if they did Roblox, you might want to look into it. It's a big lawsuit that's out there because there's a manipulation of the mind going on. So these people were targeted. They're taking young kids on these sites, which are really sexual sites in disguise, but they're filling them with crap.
When you think about
programming them.
When you think about historically, when we were younger, if you wanted to see something that was off limits, you had to really search for it, maybe find a magazine somewhere, and sneak it somewhere. It was not easy. Nowadays, kids at their fingertips can look at anything, everywhere, anytime. I'm talking about if you have a savvy 7-year-old, he can find pornography instantly.
Well, let me ask you a question. Anytime as an adult, I'm asking every adult out there that has a kid that has a smartphone all the way up to a computer and plays games. Have you ever sat there and got a new phone going, damn, I can't tell. Sure, I want to hit this thing. Yeah. Hey, Junior, come on over here. Can you help Dad get this phone to do this? Oh, yeah, sure. There you go, Dad. They know how to use this. This is their arena, and it's It's candy to them. They've been trained. It's right up their alley. They catch on quick. They've been indoctrinated to it. We haven't quite so much. So yeah, there's a real problem with what we have. And it used to be, like you said, if we wanted to do something, we'd go to the dark web. You wanted to see something, you go to the dark web.
Well, I didn't go to the web at all. There was no web.
I
went to the drugstore.
Yeah, you went to the drugstore, and
magazine section. Oh, it says.
Yeah, there you go. And then and then if you happen to get a copy of a Playboy, it was between the mattress and the box spring.
Yeah, but you had to go up there and say you were buying it for your father.
Well, they let you get away with that one, huh? So,
yeah.
And then when Mom found it, you come home from school, it's sitting on your dresser, and you go,
"Oh no!"
And then they walk in, it's like,
I
never had that happen. By the way, just so you know,
I put it between the mattress and box spring, so it was fine.
Well, but some moms knew to look.
That's true. Yeah, you met my mother. No, actually, nowadays kids can just instantaneously find stuff, see whatever they want to see. And that is a problem parents have to face nowadays that we didn't have to deal with when we were kids. I mean, we could do a whole show on this, but
do you remember ever having to have the talk? Well, for you have daughters, I believe,
right?
But so it was really not your job; it was Mom's. To go have a talk about the birds and the bees. Now the kids tell us about the birds and the bees and the crows and the hawks and everything else. I mean,
I know it is amazing. Anyway, we could go on and on. I wanted to mention that Zoran Mandani. Did you see he's doubling down and calling Trump a fascist and a threat to democracy?
Well, I'm doubling down and calling him a communist. So there you go.
But it didn't take him. It didn't take him a week. It's like he got back to LaGuardia or something, and okay, now I can be me again. The guy is the most insincere, artificial politician ever to have been elected to office. And New York, you got him for 4 years. I used to think, there never can be anybody who's worse than de Blasio. And then I thought, well, there never can be anybody worse than Adams. But New York, you outdid yourself. You found somebody who is worse than both of those guys, and he's going to take you to places you've never been to before, unfortunately.
And by the way, you might be getting more of these lefty socialist Democrats running in different seats because they had success, in different areas with their little socialist people. So now, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, her seat's going open. A guy that's running for it, I heard him touting some of the socialist propaganda. I'm going, here we go. And, you got it going on for the mayor, even though you have a bad mayor now. You got one that is a devout socialist and leaning over that fence too, that's running for mayor. And I'm going, this country is being taken over. And I mentioned it earlier. We are the only nation out of all the nations that do free elections that does not have any safety guards on our voting. Everyone else does. Registration, the whole 9 yards, got to be a citizen. There are strict, exact laws. We have the little red X there that, no, you can vote here. If you're not a citizen, you're an undocumented citizen. We've dropped our drawers, and if it keeps going, we have no country. And when Trump gets out, if we don't put a Republican in, we're going to put a socialist in, and it's goodbye.
Ronald Reagan once said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction.
Mm-hmm.
And he was absolutely correct. I was thinking when you were talking about that socialist who was looking at MTG, with Marjorie Taylor Greene's district, I thought, this is a plan. This is not a happenstance thing that the socialist down in Georgia is deciding to go after that seat. I think there's probably socialists all over the country who are going to make a full court press.
They're going to run everywhere that they can. And I think the clout town, Swalwell, that's running out in California that wants to get voting by phone in. Once you get in that, you can have burner phones and vote. We already know that the roll call for voters, the illegals, if they can't get housing, they use a different name. Where are they getting these names from? Where's the list coming from? People that have passed away that nobody's checking, so you get a legitimate name that's got no negative background. Where are the names coming from? And these people, there is a big portion of undocumented illegal citizens that are
stealing identities.
Besides the ones that we know about.
Yeah,
they are the undertow, the undercurrent. Like, you go out in the water, hey, be careful of the undertow.
Yep.
So
yep.
It's what you don't see that's going to drag us under, and that's what that is.
Hey, folks, that is going to do it for us. We hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. We're going to take a few days off to be with family and friends and to celebrate the holiday. If something happens major, if you hear something that is, earth-shattering that happens, odds are we'll do a show. We'll pull it all together and do something. But as it is right now, if things stay calm and everybody just enjoys the holiday, we're going to take the weekend off and be back on Monday. Anything you want to say, my friend, before we wrap this up?
My gut feeling is we're going to take the weekend off, but the other side says something ain't right. It's a holiday weekend, so
Yeah, that's true.
Say a prayer. Say a prayer for the nation.
Yes,
your family, yourself, your loved ones, but it would be nice this weekend if everybody would shut their political playbook for the weekend and just enjoy the holiday with family and friends, and don't judge them because they have a different view than you. Let's just have a good time being people.
Yeah, maybe what you should do is put a sign at the dining room table that says "No politics discussed at Thanksgiving dinner."
No, put a sign in the driveway. When you walk up the steps, you get out of the car, this is a political free zone.
Yes, I like that. Absolutely. You don't talk politics at Thanksgiving. Talk family, friends, memory.
Yeah.
Talk about your past. Talk about the things that you all share and love together. Don't spend your holiday arguing over politics, because you do that 364 other days of the year. So don't do it at Thanksgiving.
Give it a break, give it a rest. And I know it's going to be hard to do. I'm going to be biting my lip too, but you know what? It's the right thing to do, just to enjoy and have a good time.
Yep, exactly. And with that, my friend, happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you on Monday.
All right, happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. And until the next time, friends, hasta la vista. We're out of here. Gobble, gobble.
Who are we and why are we here? Will we be welcome or possibly feared? Do we unite and stand tall as a nation of one, or split and divide to be mocked and shunned? Are our leaders patriotic, honest and true? Do they share our beliefs? Are they red, white, and blue? The truth is out there, you just have to search. Settle for less, you'll be left in the lurch. No left-leaning lies, no socialist swill. It's straight talking truth from your friends Jim and Bill. Are our leaders patriotic, honest and true? Do they share our belief? Are they red, white, and blue? Side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. All music the property of Jim and Bill. All rights reserved.
This is CRN America.